Hey everybody, I'm Chef Tom with allthingsbbq.com, and this is Beer Battered Fish and Chips. Man, I love a basket of fish and chips, that fried goodness. You can't eat it often, but when you do, you're gonna enjoy it. So today we're gonna make our beer battered fish and chips, and on the rare occasion that we actually do fry something around here, we like to take it outside. Keep the mess outside, keep the kitchen clean. Let's go fire up the grill. But today we're cooking over gas on the Napoleon P500, and we'll be using our nice big cast iron skillet. So we're gonna start over high heat to get our oil hot. And that oil is going into this beast of a 9-quart fish pan. We're gonna be doing a shallow fry on our fish and chips today in the Lodge skillet. So we only need about 1.5 quarts of oil. We're using a canola oil today with a little bit of peanut oil blended in. Any kind of vegetable oil should work fine. Now there's a lot of different ways to go about preparing fish and chips, and don't let anyone tell you that one is right or wrong. The way we're gonna do it today is with an Irish beer batter on the fish and big old potato wedges for the chips. The potatoes are gonna take longer to prep than the fish, so we're gonna start there. So we're gonna start off with some russet potatoes. I'm gonna peel the skins off of these. And like I said, we're gonna be cutting these into wedges. So we'll start by cutting them in half. Probably go into 1/8 for most of these. That's just about the right size for this size potato. Throw them into a little bit of water to rinse off the outside there. Now when it comes to cooking the chips, it's kind of a 2-stage process. To me, the best fries out there are double fried. You start with a lower temperature to soften up the potato, then a higher temperature fry to get that crispiness all around the edges. But I wanna try and simplify this today. I wanna fry at one temperature, and I still want that crisp edge. So what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna boil these wedges first. Now if you take a look at one of these wedges, once it's completely boiled and cooked through, the edges start to feather a little bit. And then when you throw that into that fryer oil, incredible texture on the outside, and you can fry it in the same time that you fry your fish. All right, so we bring in a pot of water up to a boil. We're gonna add our wedges in there. So we'll throw the lid back on there, bring it back up to a boil, and let those cook for about 10 minutes until they're tender. All right, so let's check on these. We may or may not be there yet, but you can see some of that feathering. That's what's gonna create that great texture when these are fried, but we want to make sure that they're soft all the way to the center. We're just about there. There's not much resistance there. All right, so I'm going to shut this off and pull these out and let them dry on a rack here. We don't really want any moisture on the outside of the surface when we go to fry these. It's going to cause some popping. So we'll let these dry off while we make our batter. As far as doneness goes right now, I'd rather see some of these breaking in half than have them not done enough, because these little crispy bits are gonna be amazing in the end. So the chips are ready to fry. Now we're gonna put together our beer batter for the fish, then we'll head outside and get cooking. We're gonna start off with 1 cup of all-purpose flour. I'm gonna add to that a tablespoon of the Killer Hogs AP seasoning, mostly just salt, garlic, some spices in there, just general seasoning. 1 tablespoon there. Also got a 1/2 teaspoon of sugar, a 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder just for that little extra pop. And we'll give those dries just a little mix and add our wet ingredients. We're gonna add some Irish red beer. We need about 1.25 cups, but really you're just gonna kind of thin this out to the consistency that you like. And this will thicken up a bit as everything settles in. Just the right consistency to coat the outside without being too thick and not so thin that it runs right off. But with that baking powder and with the bubbles from the beer in there, this is gonna give us a nice light and fluffy texture to the breading. And then one last ingredient here, totally optional, but I really like the texture and the flavor that a little bit of this Dijon mustard gives. We'll go for about 1 tablespoon of that. I think just visually it's far more interesting with that extra mustard added. Let's just have a little taste here. Oh yeah, so great flavor in there. It should be a little bit intense when you taste it at this stage because all of the seasoning for the fish is coming from this batter. I love the beer flavor in there. If you're not a beer drinker, you can always use water instead of beer. Not a problem there. But for those of us that like that flavor, this is exactly what we're going for. So the fish we're using today is cod. We're gonna cut these into strips here, and we'll do our battering out at the grill. So we're just gonna get these portioned for now. And then as we start to batter these, the first thing we're gonna do is run them through some flour, then through the beer batter, and then into that hot oil. Now before we get to cooking, let's talk safety. Frying is inherently dangerous. Oil and water don't mix well. When the oil's hot, that reaction's even more drastic. So there's a couple things that we can do to make sure we're being as safe as possible. We want to keep the oil at 400 or lower. Ideally, you want to fry your fish at about 375, but when you're cooking like this and you put cold food in hot oil, it drops the temperature. So we're going to start at 400. The temperature will drop a little bit as we cook, but that's okay. We don't want to go any hotter because the hotter the oil, the bigger the reaction when the moisture hits the oil. The other thing we really have to be careful about, keep the oil in the pan. If that oil makes its way out and hits fire, you get more fire. So keep some baking soda on hand. Don't put water on it if you get a little bit of fire. Starve it of oxygen if you need to. These are all the basics when it comes to frying. We've stabilized the oil just under 400 degrees. I'm gonna pop up the heat just a little bit to counteract the loss we get when we put the cold food in, and then we'll get right into the fish. We're gonna go flour dredge first to give our batter something to stick to. Shake off that excess and right into the batter. Here we go, directly into the oil. Lay it down away from you, very gently. All right, the great thing about this big old Lodge skillet is we can do all of our fish and our chips servings at a time, so people are eating hot food straight out of the frying oil. Let's close this up to keep the heat. Let's take a look at how these are doing. Getting some nice golden brown on there, so we'll go for the flip. And don't be afraid to flip it a couple times. You're not gonna hurt anything. If you need more color, flipping it back later. Working in batches is the way to go here. That's a big pan with a lot of oil. It takes a lot of work to keep that heat up, so don't overcrowd it. Well, it's a pretty quick fry, guys. Our oil temp has dropped to about 325, but that's not bad. Our fish is cooked through past the 145 mark. Great color and great crunch on the outside. Crunchy and delicious. And we're getting that great golden brown color on the outside of our chips there. That's what we're looking for when we pull them off. So we're gonna hit them with that AP rub from Killer Hogs that we put in the batter. Just give them a little toss in there. There we go. Let's head back inside and plate it all up. All right, fish and chips loaded up. Oh man, that smells delicious. Now if we're keeping it tradish, malt vinegar is the way to go for your condiment. We'll get a little bit of that right there on top of our fish. I spice things up a little bit today with our lemon dill aioli. We'll put some of that on the side as well. You can check out the recipe for this in our tips and techniques video. We'll throw a link in the video description. All right, let's give it a taste. That crunch. Righteous beer batter, for sure. I love that flavor. Texture's dead on. That lemon aioli is killer. But I understand if you're a malt vinegar person, no disrespect. Let's check out these fries. I mean, chips. This little guy's calling my name. Oh. Great crunch on that as well. And these little bits are the best ones because fully crispy exterior, got the crunch, but just pillowy soft on the inside. Well, there it is, our take on beer battered fish and chips. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to check out allthingsbbq.com for all the products featured in today's video. If you enjoyed the video, hit that subscribe button. If you have any questions or comments or there's anything you'd like to see me cook, let me know in the comment section down below, and let's be good to one another. For more recipes, tips, and techniques, head over to allthingsbbq.com/thesauce. All things barbecue, where barbecue legends are made.